yes. Hello, my friends, and welcome to this, another edition of Rotoworld Live, served by Applebee's. A little special Rotoworld Live here because, gentlemen, we made it. Round one of the fantasy playoffs. We know our audience will be larger than ever because everyone out there has made their fantasy playoffs only because of John Daigle. That's it. Only one reason.
Not true at all.
But yes, Daigle, Pat, and Hayden are here to join me for the next 45 minutes, answer your start-sit questions, to answer and how to set your optimal lineup. Be sure to get them on Periscope, on Facebook, on YouTube, all your questions on Twitch, and we'll get them funneled over to us, and we'll answer a whole bunch of them, some game previews along the way, so on and so forth. But before we get there, Pat, there, like 2020 has always been, some major news items hitting the news feed on Saturdays. You all can be up to date on that by going to the Rotoworld feed. And I would say the number one item was that Myles Gaskin, the lead running back for the Dolphins, is out. How are you approaching this Dolphins running back situation? Because we always like to pick up those backs and start them on our rosters. Can we do that this week?
I mean, Myles Gaskin was looking like the life hack RB1 in his return to the lineup. Salvin Ahmed still out. Then he caught the novel coronavirus. Like another player in his backfield, Matt Breida, which leaves DeAndre Washington, who missed last week with a hamstring injury and then was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. But he was removed from the injury report on Friday. That was before Myles Gaskin was COVID positive, so maybe it wasn't like a desperation move by the Dolphins to convince themselves that DeAndre Washington was actually healthy. We know 2 weeks ago in a very similar situation, he got the start. He got 15 touches. Matt Breida was active that day. He's not active today. It's Patrick Laird and Elijah McGuire. Unlike the fantasy community, the Dolphins kind of seem to look for reasons not to use Patrick Laird. So I think you can pretty comfortably project DeAndre Washington for like at least low-end RB2 value. In the Rotoworld Slack, we were talking about DeAndre Washington versus Duke Johnson, and they just feel very similar to me this week. And just in that RB 22 to 24 range, in a game where the Dolphins are going to have to pass, but the Dolphins just aren't set up to do. They're going to run no matter what, and the Chiefs, we know, are more vulnerable on the ground. So I think he's a low-end RB2.
Daigle, the Dolphins are 7-point home dogs against the Kansas City Chiefs. I have that same exact situation in my lineups this week of DeAndre Washington versus Duke Johnson. Which side are you leaning there?
I think it's fairly easily DeAndre Washington. We've seen Duke Johnson with 3 starts already this year for David Johnson. He got 13, and 9 carries. They don't even prioritize giving their running back touches in that offense. I understand it doesn't have Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, but rather than filter targets to Duke Johnson, I would just imagine the offense is less impactful. So although the Bears defense has struggled with a league-low DVOA the past 3 games, I still worry about that offense as a whole. DeAndre Washington will get the touches at least.
And Hayden, let's close out. I'm sure we'll get to a lot more DeAndre Washington questions as we go through these next 45 minutes. But here's one from Rob on YouTube. DeAndre Washington or Miles Sanders?
Yeah, you just have to remove the name tag here and pick the running back that is projected for more opportunities with a higher team total. So you have to go DeAndre Washington here. And then for the wide receivers, I think I would go Michael Thomas, but I like Devontae Parker's outlook this week.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, now let's get into more and more of your questions. Again, continue to leave them in the chat, and we'll get to them throughout the show. Up here, Pat, back to you. Jonathan Stevens, good morning, y'all. This is fun. Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, CEH, or T.Y. Hilton in half-point PPR. Only one name of those 4. Once again, Pat, we are starting this off with a win or a loss. You are dictating that for Jonathan this week.
Say, Jonathan, are you sure this is fun? Me having to choose this one. I'm going to go Kareem Hunt, even though the workload floor has kind of been coming down in recent weeks. And even though this is such a daunting matchup, we just know that the Browns, they don't nothing else other than running. And I just think I'm very confident still in like 12 to 14-ish touches for Kareem Hunt. And Miles Sanders, just like we have no idea anymore. I feel like CEH, we have no idea anymore. T.Y. Hilton, I just feel the most confident in Kareem Hunt's workload.
I like that, Pat. And typically we don't get these important news items on Sunday before kickoff for a Monday night game, but Wyatt Teller has been activated off the COVID list for the Cleveland Browns. And his impact on the running success of the Browns is absolutely massive. So I like that Kareem Hunt pick. Daigle, up to you. From Omar Gómez, who joins us each week over the course of the last 13 and here in his 14th. Deshaun Watson or Josh Allen, both tough matchups. How much of a factor is it that Deshaun Watson doesn't have his two best downfield targets in this game, and Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks.
I would think it's pretty impactful whenever Fuller and Cooks are out and you're left with Isaiah Coulter, who's actually active today, and Kiki QT and Chad Hansen as your three wide sets. Josh Allen, I understand it can be scary against the Steelers, especially because it is the first round of playoffs. You need a good performance from your quarterback. But we talked about this on the preview show. We actually like the game environment. I think it's going to be an up-tempo game script. We know the Steelers aren't going to try to run the ball. They're going to attack through the air, which is either going to kill the clock because they're unsuccessful and thus gives Josh Allen more possessions and volume, or they are successful through the air and Josh Allen gets a chance at least to respond. So I do like Josh Allen over Watson this week.
Yeah, look, you're going with the home favorite in Josh Allen and a higher point total in that game as well. And right now they're kind of playing, and hey, I don't know if you disagree with this, but they're kind of playing the style of football that, to me, unless Josh Allen completely face plants, he's going to be putting up fancy production no matter what.
Yeah, top 5 in neutral pass rate over like the last month, and they're like top 10 in offensive pace as well. So it's even with the difficult defensive matchup, they still have enough weapons to make it work. And Josh Allen, worst case, will be scrambling out there. So you got to play him.
Hayden mentioned our preview show. If you have never checked that out, go on over to the Rotoworld Football podcast feed. It's available on every single platform out there. We'll actually have a Monday morning recap show going through the game-by-game notes of every single fantasy-relevant player from today, this Sunday. Pat, what's up?
So John left one thing out of his answer, which was Isaiah Coulter in a GPP.
Okay. All right. We get that one. Now Pat is in the doghouse. Let's go over to Hayden. Anibal, sit one in PPR, Hayden. Chris Godwin, Wayne Gallman, or Mike Davis. I have my lean here. I don't know about yours.
It's going to have to be Wayne Gallman. I think Mike Davis is an RB1 this week, and just because they can't use Curtis Samuel in the backfield much or at all this week, just because they're missing DJ Moore. So they need receivers out there. They're home favorites. I like Carolina just in general this week, just because the Broncos are missing so many guys. So I would sit Wayne Gallman, who has, I think, probably the lowest team total here too.
Interesting. To me, Wayne Gallman's the one who's kind of locked in there. I don't know about you and Daigle, or Pat and Daigle think, but
the last week Alfred Morris got the 3 goal line carries, and that's troubling, especially if Dion Lewis is going to be the guy that plays third downs in like the event of a blowout. So I think you get those like 15 touches from Wayne Gallman, but I think Mike Davis, you get the whole package, and I think the team total is also higher.
I think Mike Davis would be my answer. It's close between him and Gallman. Chris Godwin wouldn't even be in consideration for these two for me. But DJ Moore being out, I would imagine trickles more to Mike Davis as well. Yes, they were using Rodney Smith before the bye, but I think that's just because Mike Davis had run out of steam after the bye with 14 days of extra rest. I would think we see him closer to 16 to 22 touches this week.
Pat, we're getting a lot of good player questions in terms of stacked rosters, and that means we're in the first round of the fantasy playoffs. Here's one for you. Michael Walcott, Ezekiel Elliott, or Chris Godwin in full point PPR. Look at that
good players
you have on my face. Grimace.
I'm scared. I mean, Zeke will deliver in this one. At least Zeke over 20 touches today, fellas, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Chris Godwin, he had the pens removed. I guess he's fine. I'll take the locked in 20 touch running back over the receiver, still kind of in this mysterious like 3-ring circus in the receiver core there. Even though I like Godwin's floor, I'm leaning Zeke and just throw RB touches in this one.
Daigle, up to you for this one from Eric Camphor. Hey guys, who should I sit in standard league between DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, or Chase Claypool? We talked about that potential nice game script in terms of high volume for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Buffalo Bills. But Daigle, in that last game with Chase Claypool, despite the highs we've seen this year, it certainly seemed like they sat him in spots for James Washington.
That's exactly it. 26 routes to James Washington's 31. So Claypool was the loser, whether I agree with it or not, in that position. So if we see that again, which is what we should assume, since Ben personally wanted James Washington on the field, and thus he got it, then we are taking Hopkins and McLaurin. They're just much safer plays.
All right, Hayden, over to you from Steven, longtime listener, first-time caller. We love those. Full point PPR. J.K. Dobbins or Duke Johnson? We'll go to you, Hayden, for that one first.
Thank God.
Wow. I think in PPR, I think I'm going to go Duke Johnson. I want to play J.K. Dobbins, but he's still splitting the backfield. I think that he might earn like RB2 trust this week if he has another good week, but Duke Johnson's going to get 10 plus carries and probably more checkdowns than he has in previous weeks, just because all the receivers are out of the lineup now.
Pat, other part of this, Kiki Cutie or Cole Beasley?
I will say Duke also caught a season high 6 passes last week. For the second part, I will confidently go Kiki, even though Cole's doing that weird thing where he like alternates 9 catches for 100 yards and then 2 catches for 34 yards. Obviously, that's not predictive whatsoever. And John Brown is still out. But, the tougher matchup for the Bills this week than they had last week. And the Texans just need Kiki Cutie so badly. They need him more than the Bills need Cole Beasley. Not that they don't need Cole Beasley, but just more confident in Kiki's targets and catches floor.
All right. Daniel DeBella. Need 2 in full point PPR. So pick one unless 2 do come to your mind. T.Y. Hilton, Tyler Boyd, Chase Claypool, and DeAndre Swift. This DeAndre Swift situation seems to be like still up in the air. Like he had an invalid test this morning, but it's back positive. And who knows even how much the Lions plan to even use him this week.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. If you have safer options, or not safer options, but safe options like Jonathan Taylor, Mike Davis, you're playing them over DeAndre Swift this week since it is a question mark what his usage will be. I'm trying to figure it out as I have been all week for DFS purposes because I don't know how they're going to use him. And he seems like he's in a terrific spot that David Montgomery and several other backs have exceeded in the past couple of games. So in this case, Swift has the highest ceiling among these players. I think you're taking T.Y. Hilton in a great matchup. And then it probably is DeAndre Swift. If someone else wants to say Claypool on the show, I'm listening. But I think it's close enough to where I will take Swift's ceiling.
I would go Claypool. The thing with DeAndre Swift is he's had headaches, and I don't know if that's concussion related. The team doctor cleared him, but this is like weeks of headaches after a concussion. So you never know if he's just active because they don't have the numbers and he's just going to be like that CEH role. Like that's the risk you're taking with DeAndre Swift this week.
But like CEH didn't practice. Swift was full and Swift was just full on Friday. So it's just a situation I don't understand. I
just think it's that when you're dealing with headaches after a concussion, like maybe they're not related, but like you're taking on some risks that they are. I don't know what to make of the situation.
Of course, yeah.
Speaking of CEH, Hayden, since you brought his name up, let's go to Drew Spencer. Jarvis Landry or CEH in full point PPR? Jarvis Landry's been on a pretty good roll, but he is facing this Baltimore Ravens defense and secondary.
I'm going Jarvis Landry. He's just been the alpha, and in the games that Odell hasn't been playing and the weather's been good, Jarvis Landry has been operating as like a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I'm not expecting that here. The matchup's a little bit tougher. I'm expecting a lot of run plays, but I think that Jarvis Landry probably profiles for like 8 targets. And as much as I love CEH, you're really rolling the dice. He has like no floor right now.
Well, let's try to set that CEH line here, Pat. Bitatani, please pick 2 in full point PPR. Raheem Mostert, CEH, or J.K. Dobbins. So sit 1.
I will bench CEH, even though John earlier in the week was pointing out the concerning fact Raheem Mostert's only been like 50% of the 49ers RB touches over the past 2 weeks, but more confident in Mostert's carries floor. I guess I'm more confident in J.K. Dobbins' touch floor. More confident that if they only got 8 or 9 touches apiece, J.K. Dobbins would probably do more with them than CEH right now. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate. Someone we drafted very high, and it's the first week of the fantasy playoffs, but I would be benching CEH. I'm
so screwed in like all my leagues right now because seriously, the running back situation I have is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Duke Johnson, and DeAndre Washington. And I'm basically starting 3 of those 4 names.
I mean, there's at least upside there.
Yeah, but I know the one I'm going to bench is going to go off for 15 points. Other guys are going to get 6, but that's how this game of fun works, Pat.
I got to jump in. Will you guys, Miles Sanders, Melvin Gordon? I hate starting Melvin Gordon in there right now.
I think I'd take Miles Sanders and just hope that we see a more unique offense with Sanders catching more balls.
That's what I've been trying to work towards.
Let's go back to a quarterback question. We always love those. E. Jones Bones. Good morning, guys. Start Ryan Tannehill or Ben Roethlisberger. We've said a lot, Daigle, about this Steelers-Bills matchup. We haven't said anything about Ryan Tannehill versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team I believe he threw 3 or 4 touchdowns against earlier this season, but I believe on just 24 attempts.
And they also had both their corners in this game, whereas this game, they're on their third and fourth string corners. Everyone talks about the spot for Derrick Henry. It's arguably even better for Ryan Tannehill through the air. Corey Davis, of course, has 3 more targets than A.J. Brown in the 7 games they've played together this year. So I would imagine both are successful through the air, which, of course, all comes right back to Tannehill producing. So, yeah, I'm actually picking Tannehill.
All right. People are panicking, Hayden, without Myles Gaskin. Here's one from Donald Middleton Jr. He needs a flex between Marvin Jones, Chase Edmonds, Curtis Samuel, Miles Sanders. Thanks. I will project that Marvin Jones has been like a top 16 wide receiver for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Do you think that can continue this week? Or is Curtis Samuel, Miles Sanders a better play?
I'm debating between Marvin Jones and Curtis Samuel. It's definitely not Chase Edmonds. I think Miles Sanders, I have too many concerns to pick him here. I'll go Marvin Jones. I just think that he's going to be like getting the downfield targets that have a little more upside than Curtis Samuel, but I would get it if you went Curtis Samuel just because there's only 2 receivers and the Panthers are set up for a good spot with the Broncos' top 3 guys, corners being out right now. Yeah,
look, I mean, that Lions-Packers game has a total of 55.5. And we saw last week that Matthew Stafford threw for 400 yards. And while Jair Alexander is probably going to shadow Marvin Jones, it's probably not going to be for the entire game, So I think that I agree with you. It's probably down between Curtis Samuel and Marvin Jones here, but it does make sense to me. All right, Pat, difficult one. Dynasty dorks, Kiki Cutie or Jarvis Landry?
I mean, quite literally have them back to back. I believe I have Kiki Cutie ahead of Jarvis Landry, and Jarvis, especially in these tough matchups, seems like just lots of 4 receptions for 32 yards. Like the hip concern never really went away. It seems like maybe it finally is. He's finally had a big game or 2 over the past month. But yeah, I mean, Kiki Cutie, he's like why PPR exists. Like he's our PPR superstar and always has been, like the emptiest calorie PPR points. And I think I ever so slightly prefer Kiki Cutie over Jarvis Landry.
Okay. What about the other Texans wide receiver, Chad Hansen or Chase Claypool here, Daigle?
Similar talents.
Don't say it, Daigle. Don't say it.
It's Claypool. It's Claypool.
Thank you.
All right.
I thought about it for a
second. Add Coulter.
Daigle, let's go to another quarterback question, then back to you. Justin Herbert, or Ryan Tannehill? We just talked about Ryan Tannehill and his matchup. Justin Herbert, quarterback 5 in fantasy points per game. Atlanta Falcons defense has played a little bit better, but I don't know if this is the type that we should be terrified of Justin Herbert like we were last week against the Patriots.
What's odd is that if Julio was playing, I would say Herbert. I think it wrecks the entire game environment, honestly, though, for both offenses. Tannehill, I just don't think there's a way Tannehill fails. Like, first of all, you're not going to lose your matchup because of this question. Both are tremendous plays today. But I cannot imagine Tannehill not getting there today. He's as safe as they come. So I'm just playing Tannehill.
Famous last words. We haven't talked at all about the Washington backfield. I should have included that in our introduction here with Antonio Gibson out. Let's set that J.D. McKissic line here, Hayden, with George 929, Mike Williams, Kareem Hunt, or J.D. McKissic, and it is full point PPR.
I still have to go Kareem Hunt. Like J.D. McKissic is just, I still can't trust him, especially in this matchup. I mean, the 49ers linebackers are so much faster than J.D. McKissic. It's silly. And like, I get that he's going to get like a bunch of checkdowns and stuff, but I don't really like that game environment with the 49ers playing so slow. I'd rather take my chances on Kareem Hunt. Over the last month, he's like a positive regression candidate. He's been like very unlucky at the goal line for like the last 4 weeks. So his production is worse than what like the other indicators are with Nick Chubb back in the lineup. I think he's due for a better game.
I like it. More DeAndre Washington line, Pat. Raheem Mostert or DeAndre Washington from T. Coop Jr.
Man, these people, you can tell these are like good fantasy players who have made the fantasy playoffs because everything is like this player who is right by this player in the rankings. I'm going Raheem Mostert. Like, I just think Raheem Mostert, even when he's shedding work, he's just a very good bet for like around 14 to 15 carries. And that might end up kind of DeAndre Washington's touch ceiling, 14 to 15. Not that Mostert's ceiling is much higher. Just Mostert, the better player. He's been a bigger part of his offense for longer. I mean, I'm looking for tiebreakers, but Mostert by a nose.
I like it. I like that one. We have more running back questions. I mean, that is the name of the game here in Week 14, Daigle. Michael Kennedy says he's struggling at running back. He needs one from Mostert, Miles Sanders, and J.D. McKissick. Yes, it's that bad. Michael, I don't think that's not awful. You know, it could be much worse. You could be my situation. Daigle, which one of these?
Hayden is right. Like sideline to sideline, Fred Warner is so much quicker than J.D. McKissick. But the floor is there. He's a PPR machine. Still leads in target share from Alex Smith. Significantly outsnapped Peyton Barber. Barber will of course get the goal line touches, but between the 20s, just the fact that he outsnapped him 53-4 to 28. McKissick over Barber last week in a 1-score game script, not just negative. I think McKissick is pretty safe this week, honestly.
Little moment of DFS here, Hayden. We saw that this morning the news came out that Leonard Fournette is a healthy scratch. This most likely means that Ronald Jones has massive volume, potentially a top 10 running back against the Minnesota Vikings today as 7-point home favorites.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs are projected for like 30, 31 points right now, top 3, top 4 on the slate. And I mean, who else is going to be stealing snaps from them? They haven't been playing LaShawn McCoy or Keyshawn Vaughn at all. So, yeah. I mean, if you just look at who's been running the ball effectively, who has a massive team total at home as favorites, I mean, that's Ronald Jones. That's why he's like close to like top 5.
It actually sucks because I had him in every lineup before the news, and now everyone's on him. It's unfortunate.
Well, you're just ahead of the game. You liked the band before they became mainstream, Daigle.
He could have had like 5 touches though too.
So we just covered the running aspect of the Bucs offense. Let's now go over to Warren Sharp, who's going to cover the passing game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Thanks, Josh. I want to talk to you guys about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're laying 6.5 points at home. Total sits at 52.5. But one of the most interesting things about this game is what I think might happen for Tampa Bay's offense coming out of the bye. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Tampa Bay was one of the worst teams at bypassing third downs in the NFL, even though they had one of the best offenses overall. The problem, and Bruce Arians addressed it during the bye week and mentioned, we've been bad on third down. One of the ways we can fix that is by bypassing third down, being more efficient on early downs. Well, what has their problem been? Their problem has been that they are 74% pass on second down, which is by far the highest rate in the NFL. So predictable with their second down passing. Why are they passing so much on second down? It's because they're averaging 8.3 yards to go on second downs. That is the second most in the NFL. How are they averaging so many yards to go on second down? It's because their first downs are so inefficient. They are running the ball at a 60% clip on first downs in the first quarter of games. That is the 9th highest rate in the NFL. And those runs are averaging only 2.4 yards per carry. So they're terribly inefficient. When they're not running the ball, they're chucking the ball way downfield. Do you know that their first down average depth of target is 9.5 yards, air yards? And since week 7, that's up to 10.4. Do you know that that's the number 1 highest depth of target on first down in the NFL? It's absolutely ridiculous. This is not what Tom Brady's good at. He's not good at turning around and handing the ball to the running back 60% of the time on first down or chucking the ball down the field with the largest depth of target. In New England, his pass offenses were around middle of the pack or slightly below average in depth of target on first down. I hope that Bruce Arians sat down with Tom Brady and they made some adjustments, came to a understanding of to how to call plays better on early downs. Stop running the ball so much. Stop chucking it deep so often. Play more efficiently, avoid more third downs. If they can do that, I think they'll actually put up a fair number of points here against the Minnesota Vikings. I think this game has a good shot at going over the total. I like this game from that perspective, but it's going to be interesting to see what Bruce Arians and Tom Brady decide to do on early downs and how often they're getting past third downs.
Well, I'm going with the Chris Sims button all the way up. Look, Pat, we haven't talked at all about Antonio Brown. From Patty 100, would you start Deebo Samuel or Antonio Brown in standard?
Standard is maybe slightly close. I feel like Antonio Brown is like a better touchdown bet. I have no idea why I feel that. I just decided that when I was speaking. But Deebo Samuel, when I look at Deebo Samuel, I just think 6 catches for 80 yards. When I look at Antonio Brown, I think like 5 catches for 64 yards. I'll go Deebo Samuel.
Let's go to the quarterback conundrum section of Rotoworld Live, served by Applebee's. Hayden, over to you. Sit Kyler Murray for Matthew Stafford or Teddy B? That's an Ethan Hunt 1-3-4.
No, Kyler got in full practices this week, and like as much as we wanted to talk down on Kyler's performance the last couple of weeks, like there's reasons to believe that they can figure some things out, not the whole package, but Kyler Murray, I think, will probably run a little bit more than he has recently. I don't expect the Cardinals to be down at a season low 27% neutral pass rate like they had last week as well. You have to start with Kyler Murray.
Daigle, up to you. I'll let you drink. And
That's whiskey.
Question.
I'm good. I'm always good.
I don't know if you have the Saints game. Pat seems to assign you every single Taysom Hill start, but
I got Taysom today.
Okay, Taysom Hill or Daniel Jones, Daigle?
Oh, it's Taysom. QB3 the last 3 weeks. Even if it's a spot where he can potentially fail, he still has a much higher floor than Daniel Jones, giving the rushing juice. So Taysom Hill for sure.
Like it.
Also, Darius Slay being back is like helpful for Taysom Hill because Michael Thomas will just burn him every single time.
Pat, speaking about someone being back, James Conner is back. Are you going to go to James Conner in this situation for a team that doesn't like to run the football and hasn't been good at running the football? Or are you going to go with DeAndre Washington, which we don't know what he's like in a lead running back situation right now?
I guess especially in standard, I'll use standard as like this puts James Conner over the top here, where we know if goal line carries still exist in this offense for people other than Chase Claypool, they will go to James Conner. They haven't run for like a month, but it's kind of like they realized what they had. They didn't realize what they had till it was gone with James Conner because like they had literally no running game without James Conner. So maybe they'll get him a little more back established today. 15 carries. I like his touchdown odds better.
All right. Top shelf time of this program. Some really name brand players here. Hayden, Barry S. on YouTube, David Montgomery, or Alvin Kamara. We are here, gentlemen. We're here where these two players are mentioned in the same tier.
And there's not
answer. You know the answer.
You're evil for making me say this out loud, Josh. Yep. I refuse to say it out loud.
Do it. Come on. Hey,
David Montgomery is a top 8 running back this week. And Alvin Kamara is like an RB2.
Good. We all would have walked out if you didn't say it.
Next week, Alvin Kamara managers. Next week is when we come back because I think Drew Brees will play. And then when that's the case, Alvin Kamara is well rested. We're going to get that like 25-point game. So just wait it out.
All right. Let's go over to another one. Daigle, up to you. Wayne Gallman or Allen Robinson in full point PPR?
I think it's Allen Robinson for me. Again, this Texans defense, especially without Bradley Roby, is not an issue whatsoever. Trubisky didn't even really play bad last week. It's just that Montgomery got all the touchdowns, and perhaps that happens again. But Trubisky's locking on to Allen Robinson for a higher target share and higher touchdowns inside the red zone than Nick Foles did. So, yeah, I'm going Allen Robinson.
What's happened to the Wayne Gallman love in the show? I've asked 2 questions with Wayne Gallman involved. For like 6 weeks, he has averaged around 14.5 fantasy points. Last week was 13.5 points. And now no one wants to play him. Pat, what gives?
The running back pool is like a little deeper this week is maybe partly what it is. I don't know. I mean, we've been getting these teams, we're getting these questions from are the cream of the crop, and they've all got actually good players, so they don't have to just rely on the Giesen's role.
I really should not have asked you this question. God, okay.
Well, Wayne Gallman had like a 60-yard run. That's the only reason why he had a good game. He's not getting the goal line carries. That's what my problem is right now.
Okay. Let's go over to this one, Pat. Kiki Cutie in half-point PPR or DJ Chark?
I'll go Kiki Cutie. DJ Shark is just like too volatile of a situation. I mean, there's like the bromance with Colin Johnson. Keelan, every time you think DJ Shark's going to do something, Keelan Cole gets like 13 targets. And just too easy to envision 4 catches for 37 yards from DJ Shark, where Kiki Cutie feels like such a bankable, like 680, basically.
All right. We might need to get your answer, all 3 of you, on this one, because this is, I mean, when I say loaded, Thrift Shop 25 has a loaded lineup. Sit 1 in full point PPR between Allen Robinson, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson. Daigle, which one of those names are you sitting?
It's either Allen Robinson or Calvin Ridley. I'm going to say Allen Robinson.
Hayden, I would agree with that because you have one attached to Mitch Trubisky, and while Matt Ryan's not playing fantastic football, he's still better than Mitch Trubisky.
I was going to say it's either Allen Robinson or Michael Thomas. PPR, it's just almost impossible to do Michael Thomas, even with Taysom Hill. But my gut was to bench Michael Thomas.
I'm on Michael Thomas here as well. Wow. I'm worried about play volume. You're talking about Eagles team that's going to probably run the ball like on 60% of their plays, and same thing with the Saints. Like the clock's going to be ticking, and I know that Michael Thomas has an insane target share, but if they're not passing the ball that much, how much does it really matter? So
thrift shop. What we're saying, bench your first round pick for the fantasy playoffs. Have no fear, it'll work.
Hey,
out.
you got there without him.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah, you got to forget about that. All right, back now to the quarterback position. Pat, in your rankings, who's higher, Taysom Hill or Lamar Jackson?
It's Taysom, and fairly comfortably. I mean, this is the toughest test Taysom Hill has faced, and it's still not that tough of a test and a defense and a team that's just in chaos. But it will be the toughest test after 2 Falcons and Kendall Hinton games. But the rush, I mean, John, he's been like the QB3, the QB4, and the QB6 in 3 starts. So you just kind of got to do it.
It is like the easiest test for Lamar too. That's the hard part here. But yeah, it's I think it's Taysom. He's at least safer.
And this doesn't impact fantasy as much as it does in real life, but Taysom Hill has had a major fumbling problem this year. I think he's just behind Carson Wentz and Jared Goff in total fumbles this season, and was a part-time player for much of the year. So against that Philadelphia pass rush, even though we have seen the Saints offensive line get better, maybe that impacts the scoreboard more so than it does in fantasy football. But yeah, I think both of these are good plays this week. Have we gotten to this one? I don't think so. Hayden, Greg Orbs, Justin Herbert or Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I like Justin Herbert's matchup a lot. I'm kind of throwing away last week's game. I mean, you're talking about a vertical offense going up against a defense that plays man coverage that has bad corners right now. And the Falcons are they're honestly like just as worst coaches as the Chargers are right now. So with Brandon Cooks being out, I don't want to trust the Texans offense right now. I'm going Herbert.
All right. We're going through our normal names here, Pat, down to you. Afro Angel, start 1 in full point PPR between J.K. Dobbins, Kenyon Drake, and Kareem Hunt. We've been on that Kareem Hunt train this entire show. Does it continue with this one?
I'm going to go Kenyon Drake here. And this is a longtime listener, asks a lot of questions.
Yes.
I'll just say Kenyon Drake, which I hate. Tough matchup, very hot defense right now in the Giants. But Kenyon Drake's workload just feels so secure to me. And the touch floor is a lot higher than Kareem Hunt's. It's a more predictable than J.K. Dobbins. So I could see disagreement here, but I look for reasons not to start Kenyon Drake. But I think the work is too locked in here to bench Kenyon Drake.
We're on Dobbins because before he went on the COVID list, of course, he was the team's workhorse over the other 2, Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards. He comes back this past game, and it's not the case at all. Out snaps Gus Edwards barely 21-18, with Mark Ingram still involved for 7 touches and 11 snaps. They went right back to a committee, and then OC, someone help me out here really quick.
Greg Roman.
Greg Roman, forgot his name for a second there. Greg Roman comes out and does the thing that all NFL coaches have done as scapegoats this year. I don't understand why they attack fantasy football, saying, I know the fantasy football guys don't get it, but we like bad touches around here. And so he just said Mark Ingram's going to continue being involved. So it is what it is. It sucks.
They have no choice. They have no choice.
Yeah. Look, we attack fantasy football too, so it's okay. All right, Hayden, down to you. Kenneth Cilantro asks, Mike Davis, James Conner, or CEH in half-point PPR?
Kenneth Cilantro.
It's the kind of humor you get on this show.
No.
Jeez.
For me, this is pretty easily Mike Davis. I like his workload better, and his I think it's as simple as that. He's gonna be the guy that gets 15 carries and some receptions, and you can't really say that about James Conner and CEH right now.
Yeah, while this has disappeared and maybe it's just not part of the game plan anymore in recent weeks, maybe, but when he first took over this lead back role, and I think Mike Davis, this is going to be his 10th game he started this year, in the first 3 to 4, he had 8 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. And that could absolutely happen this week without one of their lead wide receivers. So I'm with you there. All right. Let's now go, just same questions, same names. Pat, let's go here. Chase Claypool or Mike Evans? Pretty easy, I think, from Lexi Stewart.
Yeah, Mr. Michael Evans, even with the hamstring weirdness, that was supposedly cleared up by the end of the week. And as John said, they're playing James Washington over. Chase Claypool's getting blamed for Deontay Johnson's drops, it kind of feels like. But Mike Evans, he's like the goal line back still. So Mike.
Ooh, good one. Powdery donut. There we go. Gio Bernard or Amari Cooper, Daigle, in full point PPR?
I guess Amari because the floor is higher, still leads in targets from Andy Dalton since he went under center. And it's honestly like a good matchup. Andy Dalton's still a backup, of course. Like, we're not going to see anything explosive, but he'll at least throw to Amari Cooper.
How dare you not say this is a revenge game for Andy Dalton?
There's no revenge when it comes to Andy Dalton.
I mean, just the disrespect. I mean, they benched him for Ryan Finley last year, Daigle. Why can't there be revenge here?
He has no hate in his heart.
No? Some might disagree. All right. Let's go to Pat. Chris Jebsen, Tom Brady or Deshaun Watson?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I might get canceled for my answer here, but I'm still going to go Deshaun Watson, who still played like an MVP last week without Will Fuller. The difficulty level upped considerably now without Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. But I mean, Bears defense is just like seemingly in complete collapse lately. And Tom Brady, someone who's on the spot today. It's such a good matchup. Tom Brady, certainly the higher floor. I don't know. I'd rather trust in Deshaun Watson than Tom Brady throwing 3 interceptions and looking like an old man and costing you your fantasy playoff.
Hayden, do you agree with that one?
I think I have Tom Brady slightly ahead. Just the team totals are much different. I think that Tom Brady got his plenty of beauty rest over his bye week, and I think that's going to be the difference for him.
I like it. All right. We've hit on a lot of the same names. Let's enter some new ones. And these are fringe talents, again, that might make or break this first round of the fantasy playoffs for Marvin, Cano, Todd Gurley, Chase Edmonds, or Nyheim Hines. Hayden, which one are you leaning towards?
It's not Chase Edmonds right now.
It can't be Todd Gurley either, man.
It can't be Todd Gurley.
He is done.
Yeah, he is done. I guess it's Nyheim Hines then. But the one issue I have with Nyheim Hines is like they're projected to win, and so that's not the game that favors him. But I get it. I'm looking for reasons not to play Todd Gurley, so I'm fine with Nyheim Hines here.
I mean, Todd Gurley can't do anything unless he scores a touchdown, and now he's not even like getting opportunities. That's a split backfield between Brian Hill, Ito Smith, and Todd Gurley.
Dirk Cutter even came out and said Gurley's battling a knee injury. That's what's happening right now.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but that's where we are. All right. Speaking of Todd Gurley, Daigle, this one's pretty easy. J.D. McKissick over him in standard, even in standard.
Yeah, that was my point. Even in standard, it's McKissick. He's going to get far more touches than Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley still out-snapped and out-touched by Ito Smith last week. So, yeah.
Pat, we just talked about Nyheim Hines. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. I mean, what a couple weeks. What a couple weeks. Makes us forget the remainder of the season. Anyways, Dahl 2018, Ezekiel Elliott or Jonathan Taylor? Which one?
Nothing has ever gone wrong when I say comfortably Jonathan Taylor this season, but it is comfortably Jonathan Taylor, who's passed the back-to-back test. And even last week, after the Corona absence, they didn't just like hand it to him. They didn't, but he just took it again. And we think that today is when it all comes together for Jonathan Taylor.
Daigle?
Yeah, I think it's clearly Jonathan Taylor. It's such a good setup for Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Costanza coming back this game as well. This total continues increasing. The Colts team total continues increasing. I mean, we know the Raiders can't stop them. It's just a matter of if they're going to finally give him the lion's share of touches. Even so, though, past 2 games with Nyheim Hines has out-touched him 42-18 in those games. Man, it's such a good week for Jonathan Taylor.
We still have a lot of questions on a lot of the names that we've already hit on. Mike Davis, DeAndre Swift, Kiki Cutie, DeAndre Washington. Let's go through some more of them. From M. Bryan 719, hey, Mike Davis or DeAndre Swift in half-point PPR. I think we go with the player we know the workload.
Yeah, I think Mike Davis is like multiple tiers ahead of DeAndre Swift this week. Just you can't compare their floors at all right now.
All right, Pat, over to you. Kiki Cutie or Terry McLaurin in full-point PPR. Terry, disappointed people last week, but I think even the Washington football team came out on their Twitter account and said that Terry McLaurin is going to have a massive fantasy day. So while we have some people like Greg Roman dismiss us, the Washington football team has embraced us.
Yeah, the thing with Terry is he has one of the highest floors in fantasy football. He just seems to have no ceiling with Alex Smith. So like when he doesn't hit his floor, it's like completely catastrophic. But I mean, he's almost guaranteed 7 catches, 90 yards every week. You don't go away from that after just one bad game.
I would say it was just one bad game. Don't worry about it at all.
Okay. Over to you, Daigle, Marcel Cosa. Do you think I need to start Duke Johnson or DeAndre Washington over Brandon Ayuk or CEH, half-point PPR? Daigle, I think I can eliminate part of this question. I don't think you're sitting Brandon Ayuk among these names, but then you're deciding between Duke Johnson, DeAndre Washington, or CEH in half-point PPR, and I swear I did not insert this question for myself.
I don't even think about CEH last week being an emergency option. He was active. He didn't play. Not surprising. Whatever. So I would expect him to be back to his normal touches this game. The issue is his normal touches even are quite low. And DeAndre Washington honestly could outtouch him, even though it's a worse matchup for him. Having said that, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong here because it's very close. I think I'm playing DeAndre Washington over CEH.
Yeah, you are. It's just too volatile. See, I mean, CH has failed in like every kind of matchup at this point. And the touches floor is like going lower somehow instead of higher, even as Le'Veon Bell does nothing. So, yeah, CEH is bringing up the rear there.
Okay. Another one, Pat. DeAndre Washington or James Conner from Pablo Perez.
This is every week during the chat, I get something like, why do I have this player this high? And it's James Conner. Like, I'm like, why do I have James Conner as the RB18? Because I do. I guess I'm just trusting, and I still believe he's going to get 15 carries, and I still believe if there's going to be goal line carries, it'll be James Conner. But I'm feeling I will say James Conner, but I just like, why?
Let's go now to Penaloza 509. Sit one. Hayden, Calvin Ridley, your favorite football player in the entire league, and some might say of all time, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, and Alvin Kamara.
It's Brandon Ayuk. I don't think that the difference between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in fantasy is going to be nearly as wide as some people think, and like last week's production. And you just you can't trust that offense, that passing offense, as much as the other ones on here.
Daigle, loaded roster from James T. Gray. No. Yeah, James at Gray? Something. Yeah. Pick 2 to start. Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett, Corey Davis, Justin Jefferson, or Brandon Ayuk. First, Daigle, Justin Jefferson locked in. Put him in. Yeah?
You locked him in first?
Yeah.
I mean, he was my second lock, but yeah.
Put Tyler Lockett in the trash is what you do.
Really? I was going to say Tyler Lockett.
Uh-oh. I mean,
what? Allen Robinson's the number one guy here.
Wow. I mean, why is Justin Jefferson not the number one guy here?
Corey Davis could outproduce Allen Robinson too, by the way.
James,
we're all sorts of confused in this question.
All right, Lockett, Justin Jefferson, screw it all. I mean, it's so close. Lockett, I guess, has the lowest floor among them. Brandon Ayuk, perhaps Deebo Samuel trumps him. And Corey Davis, Allen Robinson likely produces him. So sure, Allen Robinson and Justin Jefferson. There we go. We just worked it out audibly.
I say A-Rob and J-Jeff. So yeah, I'm on board with John.
Okay. I guess we are all in unison here.
You just saw a live sample, by the way, of how like rankings work.
Yeah, it's true.
That's our summer process for the premium products rankings. Literally. Right there. We haven't talked at all about Josh Jacobs coming back, Hayden. He missed, I feel like the last, 2 weeks? And Devontae Booker stepped in.
1 week.
Was it just 1 week?
Felt like 2.
Felt like 2.
Felt like a lot, but yeah.
Anyways, Josh Jacobs or James Conner here, Hayden?
It's Josh Jacobs. I don't really trust James Conner at all. He might not walk back into a full-time role, and they've been kind of sprinkling in Benny Snell at the goal line too. So I don't trust James Conner. Not that I really trust Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is the better RB2 play here.
Pat, J.D. McKissick, we're back here. Kenyon Drake or J.D. McKissick in full point PPR. You could not have 2 more different players than these 2 on your rosters, and the scoring absolutely matters because, again, McKissick is just racking up receptions. Meanwhile, Kenyon Drake is among the league leaders in carries inside the 10-yard line. And while, Kyler Murray is not hurt, but yes, he is hurt, he is going to continue to hand off those touches to Kenyon Drake in that area of the field.
Standard and half PPR, it's clearly Kenyon Drake. McKissick's closing in on him in PPR, but I still go Kenyon Drake just for the reasons you outline. And it just the workload is just so consistent for Kenyon Drake. And we think it's predictable for J.D. McKissick today, but you never truly know with a back that's so dependent on pass catching. So I'm going Kenyon Drake. I don't feel super great about it, but I'm going Kenyon.
All right, Daigle. We'll close out here with this one. From Roy Estes 1430, Kiki Cutie or Marvin Jones Jr. in full point PPR.
It's Kiki Cutie. Marvin Jones is more of like a DFS guy. It's Kiki Cutie.
All right, I lied. Hayden, Skylar Jones, Jonathan Taylor, or Ronald Jones in full point PPR.
Ronald Jones for me. I don't think this is very close, just because the Bucs are projected for so many more points than the Colts, by 5 points now, and they made Leonard Fournette a healthy scratch for a reason. They actually trust Ronald Jones.
You heard they may pass on 60% of their first downs today.
All right, let's get out of here. Again, this has been Rotoworld Live, served by Applebee's. If you want more of this type of camaraderie, this type of fun that we have together, I present to you the Rotoworld Football Podcast. You can go download it right now on all podcast platforms. We will be here and have a new episode in time for your Monday morning commute, covering every single game from today's slate. All right, that'll do it. Daigle, Hayden, go and check out Pat's rankings on the front of the site if you have any more questions. I am Josh. There it is. Look at it right there. Up the Villa, top 10. Talk to y'all soon. See you next week, everyone.